Welcome to our recap for weekend 7 of yoga teacher training here at Hobo Yoga and the YMCA with me, Ashley, or you can find me everywhere as Ash's Yoga if you want to follow me on social media or send me an email. Anyway, this first video I'm sharing with you the 3 different ways that we practice taught together. So we spent quite a bit of time practice teaching, as we are going to do now that we're into the second half of our teacher training. So we practice taught for half of the day pretty much on our training hours, and then we got into some discussions, which we'll get into later. But these are the 3 different exercises or games that we played when it came to practice teaching. And pretty much it's the same thing that we did in the past. We're just adding layers on, getting a little bit more intricate or more details and adding some things on that we might be struggling with. So the first one we did was working the room. That one, once again, if you remember that worksheet, it was where would you be placed in the class according to where the students' eyes are, that you could see them and they could see you. And yes, it's going to be different if you have mirrors in your room compared to not having mirrors, because you could face the mirrors and again, you both seeing each other, but we're practicing mirroring in a way. Let's talk mirroring. So working the room so that you can see them, but you'll have to also mirror them. Meaning if you were right next to them, you'd be doing the opposite. So if your right hand is up, you'd be talking about their left hand. So left hand reaches up as you reach your right hand up. So it's a little bit tricky when it comes to twist type poses. And when you're right up next to them, you have your opposite leg forward and you're twisting towards them so they can see you as they twist towards you. So this is kind of a bit of a mind switch, and it is not a requirement to be an amazing yoga teacher. You can be confident, awesome, amazing without ever mirroring if it's not something that comes to you easily or not something that you want to work on or gain the skills to do. It's not a requirement. It's something that I naturally do. The spatial awareness thing is, for some reason, a little bit easier for me. So I enjoy mirroring and talking to lefts and rights. It's a common thing to mess up lefts and rights, so that's why we work on it and become aware of it if it's something that you'd like to build the skills to do a little bit better. It's great because then you can actually see the students and you can tell them rights and lefts, but you could also use up and down or front and back, or use a different directional term like your front arm reaching towards the front of the room, or your leg extending to the back, or your back leg steps forward, or step your front foot to the side. So instead of saying right and left, you can get more into front, back, side, as long as it's understandable and clear. So we're practicing those cueing, the directional cues, where you're talking about which foot, which arm, where are you looking, in a way that's understandable while mirroring and knowing where to be in the room. So there's a lot of elements to this. So for example, I had a list here. We practiced in small groups, and I just wrote this list out really quick just as something that we could use. So just some poses that are typically at least one leg is forward, the other leg is back, and I have some twists on here, some warrior poses. So going back to that worksheet, if you were doing a warrior 2 and you had a big group of students, where in the class would you be if your right foot is forward? Well, you would probably be facing towards their gaze, so you're going to be over there as a teacher to help demo that pose. So you'd be over there, but you're going to flip yourself facing them, and this is the mirroring aspect, where you would have your right hand forward, left hand back, so you can see them who are over here, talking to them as students, but looking at them doing the opposite of what they're doing. I hope that makes sense. It's a skill to be learned. Don't worry if it doesn't come right away. A way to do this easily or work on mirroring or doing the opposite is sitting at the front of the room and working with simple twists and side bends. And if that's all you do to get going, or if that's all you do to mirror to get used to it, is reach your left hand across, right hand down. Right now, I don't know which way this flips, but this is my right hand. So I would say my left hand, because I'd be facing people, reach your left hand across, right hand down, inhale up, exhale, left fingertips down, right arm across, and then same with the twisting. Twist to your right when I would be going to the left, so looking at them. They're doing what I'm doing in a mirrored kind of way. Every student's going to react to this differently, and some students might actually follow you because to them, you're doing your right side, so they're going to do their right side as well. So they're more visual on seeing what you're going to do. Some will hear what you're saying and hear and listen and do what you say. So I liked Lang's little joke where he's an awful parent because, as a yogi, because do what I say, not as I do. So he'll say that and get off his mat and say verbal cues to continue the process of telling them what to do, but don't follow him. So there will be a lot of times, or there might be a few times, without that, pre-cue of saying, I'm going to get off my mat, or you stay here, or hold in this pose. You might find some students get off their mat too. So if you're in downward dog and you step forward and walk around, you might find a couple students stepping forward and getting off their mats and walking around. It happens. So having a cue in there saying, I'm going to get off my mat, or you stay on your mat, or you stay in this pose, hold here for a little longer, I'm going to get off my mat and check adjust alignment, or get off my mat and come around and see how you're doing. Or saying some sort of cue that says, hey, I'm getting off my mat, you stay on your mat, don't worry, I'm here for you, type of thing. So as you're teaching beginners, that's a big thing to notice, is that they're going to be more visually seeing you. So it's good to be able to get off your mat and move to those different places in the room so that they're best able to see you without cranking their neck. So anyway, that's what we worked on. Here was one of the lists I did. So we had groups of 3. 2 people would be the class, and so you would have to know which side of the class to be on when you're doing a triangle, revolve triangle, side angle, warrior 2, low lunge. So the tricky ones were the twists. So you would be up next to them. They would be over here, because if you're twisting, this foot's forward, whatever, you'd want to face them when you twist. So just keep practicing. Maybe pick 1 pose or 2 poses to practice that on, whether it's in the very beginning or maybe it's just looking straight on. If you've got a lunge, your right leg is forward, their left leg is forward, like you are, as a teacher, are the mirror. As if you had a mirror and you were doing exactly what they were doing, so you'd have the opposite foot forward. It gets a little complicated when we start doing mirroring and then you're facing them in other ways, but we're starting at the beginning. Practice mirroring. Remember where you need to be placed to demonstrate lunges or different poses, and keep practicing. And if you want to get a bunch of like stuffed animals or something out and practice this, like I want to be facing the students, I also want to show them what to do. And also Lang had another cue where he said that you don't want the students to be seeing his butt. It's like, I don't want the students to see my butt, so I got to make sure that they're looking at me, I'm looking at them, and they're not seeing my butt. So that's a good reminder too, is wherever the students are looking, it's not at your back side, it's at your front. Okay, the next practice teaching we did was it that one? Small group class sequence. So I took a sequence, which was your homework. I took Annie's sequence, and I took about half of it. It was a very simple, I loved it. It was like a go-to sequence. So it was very simple. I blocked it off into a few poses here, a few poses here, a few poses here, and I had 5 chunks, which was about half the class. And then we got into 2 groups of 4 or 5, and each person had a chunk of the class that they had to teach. I just labeled them off, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One person taught the beginning, centering, breath, side bends. The next person taught cat, cow, and a twist. The next person taught sun salutations. And then we had a couple of lunge series that were pretty simple. And I loved this because each trainee had a different way of teaching that segment. So you can do different things with different transitions, and you could have the same sequence or set that's written out, and it could feel very, very different based on your transitions, what you say, the cues that you use, how long you hold the poses, or whatever you choose to do. So for example, my essential oils yoga class for November was pretty much the same series every single time, but I don't think I made it the same ever. Just because there were so many, depending on the energy and who was there, and there's so many different variations you can do with a simple set of poses. So that was really fun. Thank you for doing that. And in the future, we are also going to round robin teach a full class as well. So we'll pick a few more sequences. I'm still gonna go over everyone's sequences that they handed in to me so that I can just make a few comments, a few notes, and look it over and maybe ask a few questions like, why did you choose this sequence here? Or tell me more about this. So look forward to that coming soon. Next, we had the blindfolded student. And I had Lang be the blindfolded student for this first round. And we all went around teaching a pose. And I didn't have a list of poses. I just gave each person a pose. And they had to, actually each trainee chose a pose, whispered it to me and I wrote it down, and then teaching the blindfolded student to get into that pose without saying the pose name. So talking to the body, and this blindfolded student will do exactly what you say. So if you say arms forward, they'll go like this, or if you say lift your right toes, they might just lift the toes and that's it, rather than the whole leg, or whatever it is you say. If you say to step onto your mat, or step forward or back, like you have to be exactly precise with your direction, the body part that's moving, what you're doing. So like from a forward fold, that was one that tripped us up a little bit. From a forward fold, it was reach your arms up. So from your forward fold, reaching your arms up could be like that. But then there's what else comes up? Lift the chest, or lift the torso, lift the upper body, rise up to a standing pose type of thing. So there's more that you could say to be very specific and concise. So that's working with a blindfolded student. And I wish I had a blindfold, we don't, but maybe next time we'll have that. But I also then gave partners, two of you, partners. So one person got this sequence, one person got this sequence. I wrote them out really fast, and you weren't supposed to look at them. The other person wasn't supposed to look at the other person's. So then leading them into the poses without saying the pose names. So same type of thing, is they'll do exactly what you say until you get them into the pose, and then the next pose, so sequences here. And you could do this easily with drawing pose cards. I don't have any pose cards, but those would be awesome. Or if you made little note cards with just stick figures, or it could be Sanskrit or the English names of poses. Just pull a pose and then try to teach it without saying the name of it, leading someone's body into it. Afterwards, yes, saying, and now we're in a crescent lunge, or now we're in Anjayasana, or whatever the Sanskrit is. You can say Sanskrit, you can say regular name, but I want you to be able to teach these poses and these sequences without having to say the names, with talking to the body, telling someone what to do from the ground up, so working from the base, the foundation, up through the hips, the core, whatever it is. Standing poses start with the feet, then where are the knees, and then where are the hips and the shoulders, the arms, the gaze, the head, from the foundation working your way up. So that was our practice teaching. We did working the room and mirroring. We did small group teaching a sequence that one of you came up with, and then we did the blindfolded student. So all fun things. I hope you use these games and continue practicing. We will see them again and again. You'll see the zombie game again. We'll see a few others as well. Practice teaching, keep practicing. And I'm so glad that we have this time, this space to practice together, because you won't get a lot of this time to practice, teach with feedback as much as you are here. So at least not regularly. So thank you so much for joining on weekend 7. That was our practice teaching segment. And next video, I will share even more recap of what we did for weekend 7 of 200-hour yoga teacher training. Bye.